The sun was sinking low, painting the sky in orange and red. A farmer named Daniel stood at the edge of his field, wiping sweat from his brow. His crops were weak that season, and he had already worried about how he would survive the coming winter. Yet as he looked up, he froze. A figure stood at the far fence, silent as a shadow. It was a woman, not human. Her skin carried a faint silver hue, and her eyes glowed softly in the fading light. Two small children clung to her legs, their faces pale and thin. Their clothes were torn, their bodies trembling in the evening chill. Daniel felt his heart tighten. He had heard stories of alien wanderers, people with nowhere to go, chased from villages, hunted by raiders, but he had never seen one so close. The woman raised her head slowly. Her voice was cracked, weak, yet it carried across the still air. "Human," she whispered, "I'll cultivate your fields. I'll work from dawn until dusk. Just feed my hungry children." The words struck him harder than any blade. Daniel stared at her, uncertain if he should step closer or run her off. The world was not kind to those who helped outsiders. He knew that. Everyone in the nearby village spoke of danger, of betrayal, of how aliens brought ruin. Yet here she was, not a monster, not a threat, only a desperate mother with children who looked close to death. One of the children, a little boy, tried to smile as he stared at a loaf of bread Daniel had left on the fence post earlier. His lips were cracked, and his eyes carried that dull haze of someone starving. Daniel swallowed hard. He had little for himself, but the sight of those children twisted his chest. "Who are you?" Daniel asked cautiously. He kept his voice low, his eyes darting toward the trees, worried that someone else might be watching. The woman bowed her head. "My name does not matter. We were driven from our village. People said we were useless mouths. My children have not eaten in days. Please let me work. Let me dig your soil, pull your weeds, anything. Just food, human, that is all I ask." Silence hung heavy. Daniel felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. If anyone saw him take them in, there would be whispers, maybe even threats. He had seen men dragged before the council for far less, and yet, as the wind rustled through the dry stalks of his failing crop, he saw something else. He saw two children who might not survive the night. Daniel stepped closer to the fence. The woman tensed, as if expecting him to strike her down. Instead, he placed the half loaf of bread on the wooden rail and pushed it toward her. The boy's eyes lit up. The little girl grabbed it quickly, breaking it into small pieces. They ate as though they had been starving for years, crumbs falling across their tiny hands. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She whispered again, "Thank you, human." Her voice broke, almost lost in the wind. Daniel looked toward the dark horizon. He knew this was only the beginning. Feeding them once was simple, but what came next? If he gave them shelter, if he gave them safety, there would be no turning back. Behind him, the last rays of sun vanished, and the world sank into night. Somewhere far off, a wolf's howl echoed. The alien children pressed close to their mother, clutching her torn cloak. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew he was stepping into danger. He also knew, deep down, that he could not turn away. He took a deep breath. "Come with me," he said quietly, "before someone sees you." The woman's knees buckled with relief. She held her children close and followed him past the fence into the uncertain darkness of his farm. The farmhouse was dark except for a single lantern. Daniel opened the wooden door slowly, letting the alien woman and her children step inside. They hesitated at the threshold, clinging to her hands, their wide eyes scanning the walls and the smell of food in the air. "Sit," Daniel said, pointing toward the table. The woman bowed her head, guiding the children to the chairs. On the table sat a pot of soup, simple potatoes and carrots, but to the children it looked like a feast. Their faces glowed. The girl reached forward, trembling. The boy followed. Their mother stopped them until Daniel nodded. "Go on," he said. The children ate desperately, tears in their eyes. Their mother only watched, shoulders shaking. Daniel slid the pot closer. "Eat," he said firmly. She bowed, taking only a little, as if every bite was a gift. The house grew quiet, spoons scraping softly. Daniel leaned back, watching them. Something stirred in his chest, warmth mixed with unease. When the children finished, they leaned against their mother. "Full at last," the boy whispered. "Mama, no more pain." Her glowing eyes turned to Daniel. "We will work hard," she said. "My people were farmers once. I will give life back to your land, as you gave life back to my children." Daniel stared at the fire, heavy with thought. Rumors would spread, danger would come, yet as he looked at the family resting by the hearth, he knew he could not send them away. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we'll see the fields." She bowed deeply. "I will rise before the sun." That night, as she tucked her children into the straw bed, Daniel stood in the doorway. His farmhouse no longer felt empty. For the first time in years, warmth had returned. "Maybe this house isn't empty anymore," he whispered to himself. The next morning, the sun barely touched the horizon when Daniel stepped outside. The air was cold, and the fields lay still under a thin layer of frost. The alien mother was already awake, her children beside her, rubbing their eyes and shivering slightly. She carried a small basket and wore a determined look. "Are you ready?" Daniel asked, his voice low but firm. She nodded. "I have never been more ready." Her hands were calloused, though soft from long days of labor. She held her head high, even as the wind bit at her skin. The children clung to her skirts, their small fingers grasping tightly as they watched the distant rows of land. Daniel handed her a pair of old gloves and a hoe. The tools were basic, worn, but sturdy. "The soil is hard," he warned. "It will not forgive mistakes." She did not flinch, bending down immediately, pressing the metal into the frozen ground. The children crouched beside her, mimicking her movements, their small hands pawing at the soil, curious and eager. Daniel walked along the edge of the field, watching silently. He had worked these lands for years, alone, and he had learned the patience of the earth. Yet there was something about watching this woman and her children, a strange rhythm in their movements, that made the soil seem alive, almost grateful for their hands. Hours passed, the frost slowly melting under the growing sunlight. Sweat formed along her forehead, yet she did not stop. The children giggled occasionally, finding small worms or hidden roots. Their laughter was fragile, like glass, but it carried across the fields, weaving into the morning air. At midday, Daniel brought a small lunch, a loaf of bread, some dried meat, and water. The family gathered under a single tree, their faces flushed from labor and cold. They ate quickly, hungrily, but carefully, making sure every piece of bread went to the children first. "Why do you work so hard?" Daniel asked quietly, more to himself than anyone else. The woman paused, chewing slowly. "Because they deserve life," she said softly, glancing at her children. "Because the land needs hands, and the children need food. I cannot fail either." Her voice was steady, but Daniel noticed the tight line of her jaw, the way her shoulders trembled slightly. After the brief meal, they returned to the fields. The soil was heavy, clinging to the hoe, biting at their fingers. The sun rose higher, casting harsh light across their backs. Yet still, they worked, row after row, planting seeds, breaking clods, watering small patches carefully. Daniel walked among them, offering tips, small corrections. "Press deeper here," he said. "Turn the soil slowly there." She nodded each time, absorbing every word, the children imitating her every move. By late afternoon, the first rows were finished, neat and orderly. A sense of accomplishment hung in the air, even in the exhaustion. The alien mother stood straight, looking at the lines of planted seeds, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. "Tomorrow," she said, her voice low but strong, "we will plant more and more until the land is ours again." Daniel nodded, watching the children play briefly with bits of soil, their laughter mingling with the wind. He realized something, a strange, burning thought. This family, fragile as they were, could bring life not only to his fields but to his heart as well. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, shadows lengthening across the soil, Daniel felt the weight of responsibility shift. He had protected them for one night, shared food, and now he had shared his land. But tomorrow, the work would be harder, the risk greater. Still, for today, the family had survived, and the seeds were in the ground. Tiny green hope tucked into the earth, ready to grow, and Daniel knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. The next morning, a thick fog rolled over the fields, hiding the far edges in a gray blanket. Daniel stepped outside, sensing a change in the air. It was quiet, too quiet. The alien mother and her children were already at work, their small figures bending over the frozen soil, planting seeds with careful hands. "Be careful today," Daniel called softly, watching the mist swirl around the rows of crops. His voice seemed swallowed by the fog, yet he hoped it reached them. She looked up briefly, her eyes sharp. "We always are," she said, returning to her work. The children followed her lead, their small hands patting seeds into the ground, their eyes scanning the fog nervously. Daniel walked along the edge of the field, his senses alert. Something felt off, a strange vibration beneath his feet. Or maybe it was just the tension in the air. Then he noticed it, a shadow moving quickly between the trees at the far edge. He froze, listening carefully. A low sound carried through the fog, like a growl or a warning. The alien mother stiffened, sensing it too. She whispered to her children, "Stay close, do not wander." They huddled behind her, their small faces pale but trusting. Daniel stepped forward slowly, his hand resting on the hilt of a small blade at his belt. He could see movement now, more than one shadow, stalking silently, watching, waiting. The fog seemed alive with hidden eyes. "Who's there?" he called, his voice firm but calm. The shadows paused, then melted back into the mist, leaving only a sense of menace. His heart pounded, but he could not show fear, not when they depended on him. The alien mother stood beside him, brushing dirt from her hands. Her face was serious, determined. "They come sometimes," she said quietly. "Creatures from the forest, hungry for what we plant. They will try to scare us, to take what belongs to them." Daniel nodded. "Understand." Ding, the risk. He had heard rumors of wild beasts near the outskirts, but he had never seen them this close. The fog made everything uncertain, every shadow a threat. The children clung to their mother's skirts, their small hands trembling. Daniel crouched beside them, offering a reassuring smile. "We will be safe if we stay together," he said, and he meant it. Hours passed with tension hanging over the field. The workers moved quickly but cautiously, planting seeds in tight rows, watching every sound in the fog. The low growls returned, echoing from the distant trees, sometimes closer, sometimes farther. At one point, a shadow lunged from the edge of the forest, a small wolf-like creature with glowing eyes. The children screamed. The alien mother stepped forward, her hands raised, and Daniel moved faster, drawing his blade and rushing to intercept. The creature froze as it met his gaze, then turned and disappeared into the fog, its growl lingering like a warning. Daniel exhaled slowly, his body tense, his heart raced, but he knew they had survived the first test. The alien mother bent down, gathering her children close. "We must be ready," she whispered. "The land will fight us, but we will fight back." Daniel watched the horizon as the fog slowly lifted, revealing the first patches of sunlight. The field was still, but he knew the danger was never far. It would come again, testing their courage and strength. As they packed their tools for the day, Daniel felt a strange pride. The family was learning, growing stronger under pressure, and he realized that survival was more than planting seeds. It was about trust, courage, and standing together in the face of fear. The sun rose fully now, lighting the frost-covered earth, and for a brief moment, the world seemed peaceful, but Daniel knew the shadows would return, and when they did, they would not find the fammies. Lay unprepared. Night fell over the fields, and the wind carried a sharp chill. Daniel lit a small lantern near the edge of the alien family's tent. Its light flickered across the frost-covered soil, casting long, strange shadows. The children huddled together, their eyes wide with fear, but trusting him. The alien mother moved quietly, checking the small traps they had set around the crops. "Tonight will be harder," she whispered. "The creatures are more daring when the moon is low." Daniel nodded, gripping his blade, ready for whatever came. A sudden rustle from the forest edge froze him in place. His instincts screamed danger. The shadows of the trees swayed, though there was no wind. Then came a low growl, deep and threatening, echoing through the night. "Stay inside," Daniel ordered, his voice calm but firm. He and the alien mother moved to the front of the tent, peering into the darkness. The first creature emerged, its eyes glowing red, body hunched and ready to pounce. Daniel stepped forward, blade raised, while the mother summoned a strange light from her hands, a soft blue glow that made the shadowy creature hesitate. Its growl deepened, then it lunged toward the crops, teeth flashing. He met it with a swing, the blade slicing the air as the creature turned, snarling but avoiding a direct hit. Another shadow appeared, a smaller one darting quickly between the trees, watching, waiting for an opening. The alien mother's hands glowed brighter and the creatures recoiled, but they were clever, circling slowly, forcing Daniel and her to stay alert. The children watched from inside the tent, holding each other tightly, their breath quick and nervous. Suddenly, a loud crash rang out as one creature knocked over a trap. Daniel reacted quickly, lunging forward to block it. His blade caught the creature's side, making it yelp and retreat slightly. The mother used the light to push another away, her voice firm and commanding. Hours seemed to pass like minutes. The night filled with growls, shuffling, and the occasional scream of a frightened child. But Daniel and the mother never let the creatures get too close. They moved with perfect coordination, reading each shadow, predicting every movement. Finally, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, and the creatures vanished into the forest, retreating with low, frustrated growls. Daniel lowered his blade, exhausted but relieved. The mother gathered her children, brushing dirt from their clothes, her eyes tired but proud. "You fought well," she said softly, looking at Daniel. "The land is testing us, but we have proven we can survive." He nodded, feeling the weight of the night still in his arms and shoulders, but also a strange pride. The children emerged from the tent, rubbing their eyes, looking at the damaged traps and scattered soil. Daniel smiled, kneeling to their level. "You are safe now," he said, "but we must always be ready." They worked together through the morning, fixing the traps and checking the crops. The tension from the night lingered, but it also brought them closer. The alien family learned quickly, their movements precise, their trust in Daniel deepening. As the sun rose higher, the frost melted, revealing footprints in the soil. The creatures had been close, but the family had survived, stronger and wiser. Daniel looked at the field, at the alien mother and her children, and realized that survival was more than courage. It was learning, adapting, and never giving up. And as they prepared to plant new seeds under the brightening sky, he knew the night would come again, but next time, they would be ready. The morning sun warmed the frost-covered soil, but a strange unease hung in the air. Daniel moved carefully between the rows of young plants, checking for signs of the night's attack. The alien mother and her children worked quietly, planting seeds with careful hands, their faces still pale from fear. Suddenly, a sound broke the quiet, soft footsteps crunching over the soil. Daniel froze, his hand gripping the hilt of his blade. The mother signaled the children to hide behind her, her glowing hands ready. A figure emerged from the tree line, tall, cloaked, and moving slowly toward them. "Who goes there?" Daniel called, his voice steady but tense. The figure stopped, raising its hands slightly, showing it carried no weapon. Its eyes were hidden beneath the hood, but the aura it gave off was cold and unfamiliar. "I mean no harm," the stranger said, voice low and strange. "I am looking for food and shelter." Daniel narrowed his eyes, unsure if he could trust this being. The creatures from the forest had been clever, and this stranger could be worse. The alien mother stepped forward, placing herself between her children and the stranger. "We feed those who are honest," she said, her voice firm, "but we do not tolerate lies." The stranger hesitated, then slowly nodded, stepping closer. Daniel watched every movement, blade ready. The stranger's eyes finally showed, a deep green that seemed almost like fire. It scanned the fields, the small crops, and the scattered traps. "You survived the night," the stranger said quietly, almost with admiration. "Many would have fallen." Daniel's mind raced. Should he trust this being? But something in its tone, calm and honest, made him pause. The mother looked at Daniel, her eyes questioning, silently asking what he thought. He shook his head, motioning for her to wait. "I will help," Daniel said cautiously, "but only if you work with us and protect the family." The stranger nodded again, bowing slightly. "Agreed," it said. "I can fight, I can watch the land, and I can guide." The alien children peeked from behind their mother, curiosity replacing fear. The stranger bent slightly, offering a small, glowing fruit from its pouch. "For you," it said, "a gift for your bravery." The children gasped, unfamiliar with this kindness, and slowly took the fruit, eyes wide with wonder. Daniel and the mother exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. Trust had to be earned, but sometimes it began with a simple gesture. The stranger then moved with them through the fields, showing how to strengthen the traps, how to watch for the creatures, and how to read the signs of danger. By midday, the stranger had earned a cautious respect, its knowledge saving crops from hidden threats. Daniel noticed the way the alien mother relaxed slightly, the children laughing quietly as they learned new ways to plant and protect their food. The bond was fragile but growing. As the sun began to set, Daniel looked toward the forest, thinking of the night ahead. He knew the creatures would return, possibly stronger. The stranger stood beside him, watching silently, a calm readiness in its posture. The alien mother called her children inside the tent, preparing for the night. Daniel and the stranger stayed outside, eyes scanning the darkness, waiting, ready. And in that moment, Daniel realized something important. Strength was not just in fighting, it was in trusting the right allies, and tonight he had one more beside him. The wind carried the first growls from the forest, low and threatening, but now they would not face it alone. The night came quickly, darker than before. The moon hid behind thick clouds, and the forest was alive with growls and movement. Daniel stood near the edge of the field, his blade sharp in his hand. Beside him, the stranger's hood was down, revealing a face marked by scars, eyes glowing faint green. The alien mother stood on the other side, her hands faintly glowing with blue light. The children were inside the farmhouse, whispering to each other, their eyes wide but trusting. They knew their safety depended on the three adults standing outside. The first attack came suddenly. A creature leaped from the trees, landing close to the traps. Its body was larger than the others, black fur glistening, red eyes burning like coals. Daniel lunged forward, striking with his blade. The stranger moved fast, hurling a stone wrapped in strange energy that made the creature stumble back with a howl. Another shadow darted in, smaller, quicker, aiming for the crops. The alien mother raised her glowing hands, creating a flash of light so bright that the beast cried out, confused. Daniel took the chance and cut it down. His heart pounded, sweat dripping, but he did not step back. The forest seemed to scream with anger. More shapes appeared, glowing eyes in the darkness, circling, waiting, watching. The growls shook the earth. The stranger whispered, "They test us first, then they strike together." Daniel nodded, gripping his blade tighter. "Then we stand together," he said firmly. The alien mother's eyes blazed with determination. "We protect the children, no matter what." The creatures attacked in a wave, crashing against the traps, snarling and clawing. The ground shook as larger ones charged, breaking branches and scattering soil. Daniel swung his blade again and again, sparks flying as steel met claw. The stranger moved like shadow, striking from behind, pushing back any bees that got too close. The mother unleashed bursts of blue light, driving the creatures away, shielding the crops. The children pressed their faces against the window, watching their protectors fight, fear and hope mixed in their eyes. Every cry of battle made them tremble, but every victory made them believe. The fight stretched on. The beasts were endless, shadows upon shadows. Daniel's arms ached, his breath grew heavy. Yet every time he stumbled, the stranger covered his side, and the mother's light shielded him. Together, they moved like one, a wall that refused to break. Finally, after what felt like hours, the beasts began to falter. Their growls weakened, their steps unsure. One by one, they slipped back into the trees, retreating into the shadows, leaving silence and broken soil behind. Daniel stood tall, his chest heaving, his blade dripped with sweat and blood. The stranger leaned against a post, his scars glowing faintly under the lantern light. The alien mother fell to her knees, exhausted, but her eyes glowed with victory. The children ran out of the farmhouse, tears streaming. They threw their arms around their mother, holding tight. Daniel watched, his heart heavy but proud. They had survived another night, stronger than before. The stranger spoke quietly. "You are not just protecting land. You are building a family and a future." Daniel looked at him, surprised by the words, but deep down, he knew they were true. The alien mother turned to Daniel, her voice soft but full of strength. "You could have sent us away, but you did not. Tonight, we live because of you." Daniel shook his head. "No, because of all of us," he said. "Together." The sun began to rise, golden light spilling across the field. For the first time, Daniel saw more than soil and crops. He saw hope planted deep in the earth, growing stronger each day, and he knew the fight was as far from over, but they would face it side by side. The morning sun rose slowly, casting light over Daniel's farm. The soil was torn, the traps broken, but the crops still stood, alive and safe. The alien mother and her children rested near the farmhouse, their faces tired yet calm. The stranger watched silently from the edge of the field, his green eyes sharp. Daniel washed his face at the well, his muscles sore from the night's battle. He looked at his land, then at the family. A thought pressed against his chest. How long before others found out? He did not wait long. By midday, the sound of hooves came from the road. Daniel looked up to see 3 villagers approaching. They carried baskets and tools, but their eyes were not friendly. They stopped at the fence, whispering among themselves. "Daniel," one man called, his voice edged with suspicion. "We've heard things, strange lights at night, growls from the forest. Some say you've brought outsiders here." Daniel's heart tightened. The alien mother stepped back, pulling her children behind her. The stranger lowered his hood, his posture ready. "I tend my land," Daniel answered calmly, "and I protect it. That is all." The villagers did not seem convinced. A woman among them pointed toward the farmhouse. Children's laughter was heard. "But you live alone, Daniel," she said sharply. "What are you hiding?" The alien boy peeked from behind the door, his small eyes wide. The villagers gasped, their whispers turning harsh. "It's true," one man spat. "He shelters aliens. He brings danger to us all." The tension thickened. The alien mother stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "We mean no harm," she said. "We only seek work and food for the children. We fight the beasts. We protect the soil. Please, we are not your enemies." But the villagers' faces hardened. Fear clouded their eyes. Daniel stepped in front of her, his voice firm. "They stay," he said. I work the land. They protect what is ours. You think they are danger, but without them, we would have lost the fields last night." Silence followed, broken only by the distant cry of a crow. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. One muttered, "This will reach the council, Daniel. They will not allow this." The 3 turned and left quickly, their whispers trailing behind them like poison. Daniel stood still, watching them go, his jaw tight. The alien mother looked at him, fear flickering in her eyes. "They will come," she whispered. "They will not stop." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "Let them come," he said. "This is my land, and no council will decide who I feed or protect." The children clung to their mother's skirts, trembling. The stranger stepped forward, his voice calm but steady. "The council will not come alone. They will bring soldiers. They will bring laws." Daniel looked at the horizon, the sun dipping lower. His farm was no longer just soil and seed. It was a line drawn in the earth, a choice between fear and compassion. That night, as the lantern flickered in the farmhouse, the family sat together. The alien children ate slowly, their eyes still shadowed by worry. Daniel sat across from them, silent but strong. The mother met his gaze, her voice soft. "You risk everything for us. Why?" Daniel looked at the fire, the crackle of wood filling the silence. "Because no one should beg for food while I have bread. Because no child should cry from hunger while I have land." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. The children leaned against her, their small hands clinging tightly. For the first time, Daniel saw not just strangers, but a family he could not let go. The village whispers grew louder outside, but inside the farmhouse, hope flickered stronger, and Daniel knew the real battle had only just begun. The next morning, Daniel woke to the sound of hooves again. This time, it was not 3 villagers, but a whole group. Horses and wagons rolled down the dusty road, and at the front rode the council guards. Their armor glinted under the sun, their spears upright and sharp. Behind them came the council leader, an older man with cold eyes and a stern mouth. He dismounted slowly at the edge of Daniel's fence, his gaze sweeping across the fields, the farmhouse, and finally the alien mother who stood silently with her children. Daniel walked forward, his shoulders tense but steady. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice calm. The council leader's lips curled. "What I want is order," he replied, "and what I see is a farmer who breaks it." He pointed toward the alien family, his voice rising so all could hear. "You shelter outsiders, you feed them. You let them live on our soil. Do you not understand the danger you bring?" The villagers who had followed the council murmured, some in fear, some in anger. The alien children pressed close to their mother, clutching her hands. She kept her head high, though her body trembled. "They are no danger," Daniel said firmly. "They work, they protect. Without them, my land would be ash from the beasts that came in the night. Laughter broke out from one of the guards, sharp and cruel. Lies, he said. Everyone knows outsiders bring ruin. They curse the land, they weaken men. The council leader raised his hand for silence, his eyes bored into Daniel's, cold and sharp. You have a choice, he said slowly. Send them away, or face the council's judgment. The alien mother stepped forward, her voice steady though her hand shook. Please, she said. We only ask for food. We have nothing, my children. Her voice cracked. They will not survive without help. The villagers muttered again, some turning their eyes away in shame, but others hardened their faces, demanding action. The council leader sneered, Enough. You are not welcome here. Your kind never was. Daniel's chest burned with anger. He stepped in front of the family, his voice like iron. If you want them gone, you'll have to take me too. The crowd gasped. The alien children looked at him with wide, tearful eyes. The mother's lips parted in shock. The council leader's face twisted. You would defy the law for them? He spat. Daniel's hand tightened on his blade. This is my land, he said, his voice low but powerful. No council, no guard, no law will decide who I let eat at my table. The stranger who had stood silently near the fence stepped forward now, lowering his hood. His green eyes glowed fiercely. And if you move against him, he said coldly, you will face me too. Tension exploded in the air. The guards gripped their weapons. The villagers held their breath. The alien mother pulled her children close, ready to shield them with her body. Daniel stood firm, the stranger at his side. For a long moment, no one moved. The council leader's eyes narrowed, calculating. He saw Daniel's defiance, the stranger's power, the mother's glowing hands, and he knew a fight here would cost him. At last, he lowered his hand, signaling the guards to stand down. His voice dripped with venom. Very well, farmer. But know this, your choice has consequences. You have made enemies today. With that, the council mounted their horses and turned away, the villagers following in uneasy silence. Daniel stood unmoving until the sound of hooves faded into the distance. Only then did the alien children run to him, their small arms wrapping around his waist. You saved us, the little boy whispered. Daniel placed a hand gently on his head, his voice steady. No, we saved each other. The alien mother's eyes shone with tears, her lips trembling. You risked everything, she whispered. Daniel looked at her, then at the field, green sprouts breaking through the soil. Some things, he said quietly, are worth everything. The sun rose higher. The days after the council's visit were heavy with silence. Daniel worked his fields with steady hands, but his eyes often searched the horizon, waiting for the return of soldiers or angry villagers. The alien mother helped beside him, her children carrying water, their laughter returning little by little, though fear still lingered in their small voices. The stranger stayed close, his green eyes sharp, watching the edges of the forest. He said little, but his presence gave Daniel strength. Together they had stood against beasts, against the night, and even against the council. Each sunrise brought more growth in the soil. The seeds planted with care began to rise, fresh green life stretching toward the light. Daniel could hardly believe it. His crops were stronger than they had been in years. The alien mother's knowledge of the earth was more than skill. It was a gift. At night, when the children slept, Daniel sometimes found her kneeling by the window, whispering quiet words in her language. Her eyes glowed softly, as if she prayed for more than food. He never interrupted, but he always felt something stir in his chest when he watched her. One evening, as the sun painted the sky gold, the alien children ran to Daniel, holding a small bundle. It was bread, baked unevenly but with care. For you, the little girl said shyly, you share with us, so we share with you. Daniel's chest tightened. He took the bread gently, breaking it into pieces so they could eat together. The alien mother's eyes filled with warmth. You are not just feeding us, Daniel, she said softly. You are giving us life. You are giving us a home. Daniel looked at her, then at the children smiling beside her. For years he had lived alone, his farmhouse quiet, his fields heavy with labor and silence. Now the air was filled with laughter, voices, and something he had not felt in a long time, longing, but danger still loomed. The council's threat echoed in his mind. He knew they would return one day, perhaps with soldiers, perhaps with chains. Yet when he looked at the alien mother's determined eyes and the children's trust in him, his fear hardened into resolve. "This is our land now," Daniel said one night as they sat by the fire. "No one will take it from us." The mother placed her hand over his, her voice trembling with emotion. "Then we will stand with you, always." The stranger gave a rare smile, his scars glowing faintly in the firelight. "Together you are stronger than they know," he said. "The soil listens to you, the children believe in you, and no council can break that." Weeks passed. The crops grew tall and full. The farm looked alive again. Neighbors who once whispered began to watch in silence. Some still hated, but others started to wonder, how could a cursed field bloom brighter than any other? The day of harvest came. Daniel stood with the alien family in the field, the children laughing as they filled baskets with golden grain. The mother's eyes shone with pride. Her promise had come true. She had cultivated his land, and in return, her children had food. At the edge of the field, Daniel paused, looking at them, his heart heavy yet light. For the first time in years, he felt whole. The farmhouse was no longer empty, the land was no longer silent, and he was no longer alone. The little boy ran to him, tugging at his sleeve. "Are we your family now?" he asked in a trembling voice. Daniel bent down, resting a hand on the child's head. His voice was steady, warm, and full of promise. "Yes," he said, "from this day forward, we are a family." The alien mother's tears fell, but her smile was brighter than the harvest sun. The stranger turned away, his job done, but even he could not hide the small smile on his scarred face. And as the golden fields swayed in the wind, Daniel knew their fight had only begun, but so had their new life, together, stronger than fear, stronger than hate, a new family, born of hunger, built on courage.